everyone. This is Brittnee Bond, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, I am feeling very emotional. So, if I cry a lot in this podcast, you have been warned that it's going to happen. It's probably going to happen. Usually, I go and so what I want to talk about in this podcast is feminine energy and the lie that we have been fed about feminine energy in our life today. Because a lot of us women are running around getting a lot of programming fed to us about what does it mean to be in your feminine and this and that. And the world itself is very in its masculine energy. And just people in general are just not happy. So I'm here. I'm here showing up to help us align ourselves inside of our bodies more and also connect us to each other more, because we all want that connection. And we all want that pleasure, the pleasure in connection. So to drop in, I just need to share how I'm doing. In the last 24 hours, I have been in what I call my cave mode. Us women, we also have our cave mode. Maybe you can come up with a better name than that, but it's basically just like the womb, maybe the womb. I go back in my womb state of just I am feeling so much that I need to turn the outside world off, and I just need to get cozy in my bed and cry if I need to cry, scream if I need to scream, watch some TV. I got a massage. My massage lady comes to my house. Very grateful for her. And I just allowed myself to feel all of it. And when I gave myself that space to feel all of it, it made me feel so soft and so vulnerable and so just gooey. I feel melty. This has been going on for about 24 hours now. And if you've ever had a really good cry and you know that feeling afterwards, it's like this huge release of just pent up emotions. And that's how I feel. But it feels even more like it's like usually after you have a good cry, it just, it's a little bit after. And I'm like, this is going on 24 hours. And it's just because I keep crying. But apparently there's a lot of things that need to be released. And I'll go into some of those in this episode. I just made a reel about it this morning. One of the things was that, my friend Kane, who was a love of mine and a friend and a soul family and all the things. He committed suicide a year and a half ago. And when someone dies, I've had a lot of people die in my life, a lot more than I would like to have. I think one is already too many, but I've probably had about 5 or 6 very close people in my life pass away. And when you have this, it's like there's so many emotions, and it's not like the thing people don't talk about when death is that they act like, okay, they died, and you have this kind of accepted grieving period of 1 year. But it's like, there's no time on grief. There's no timeline. And and then there's just moments where it just comes up and it's just like pouring out of you. They say grief is the love that you wish you could give to that person and have that connection in that moment, and they're not there to receive it in the physical. And so it's just this emotion that just needs to be released. There's something in somatic experiencing, like somatic therapy, called titrating. And this means when you have a large amount of energy or grief, or we'll talk about grief right now. So say you have this whole bucket of grief, and you if you try and process all of that all at once, it can overwhelm your nervous system. So titrating is like kind of turning the faucet on and off, like turning the faucet on. Okay, we're processing this chunk of grief. Okay, we're going to turn that off before we overload everything. And then you put it away for a while, and then something else happens and you open it up and then you process a little bit more. This can happen in someone dying. This can happen in heartbreak, which is a form of a death of a relationship. This can happen in any sort of loss that you have, any sort of overwhelming emotions that you have that maybe your body can't process it all at once. And it's okay to be able to turn it on and off and take out a little bit at a time, look at it, process it, let the feelings go through your body. And so that's what I was doing yesterday. And also there's something around feminine energy that keeps coming up for me. So this is something I coach a lot of women on. And a lot of people look at me and they're like, wow, Brittnee, you're so in your feminine. I wish I could speak like you. Your voice is so soft. I wish I could carry myself like you. You handle situations like really from a place of grounded, soft energy, but also in your power. Like you have good boundaries, but you speak them clearly and softly, and you don't get out of your center. You're like, you're grounded in yourself. And it's almost like they think I just woke up like this. Like I just popped out of into the world like, oh, this soft feminine creature. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if you go back on my YouTube and you look at any of my past videos when I was in like co-working and digital nomad life, and I've had many past lives, but this one happens to be on YouTube. So if you scroll down through my YouTube, you can watch some of the videos and you will see that I can't even look at these videos because I cringe when I hear my voice, and I cringe when I like watch myself, because I was so in my masculine energy for most of my life. And I was so like, I would say like from an energetic perspective, I was constricted. Like you can feel it when you watch these videos, you can hear it in my voice. And a lot of that was because I was raised in a world that felt very unsafe for me. I was raised with a lot of trauma, a lot of abuse, and the way I was able to get out was to put myself more in my masculine energy and study law and, get a very high paying job in a masculine run industry where like I was one of the only women there, and just work my way up, just work. And feelings and how am I honoring my body and flowing? None of those things there was no space for any of that. So it was just survival mode. And that's what I had to do because I didn't have any family support. When I left, I grew up in a religious cult, and I left when I was 24, and I lost every single person that I ever knew from 0 to 24. They were just gone. None of them were allowed to speak to me anymore. They made an announcement from the platform: Brittnee Bond is no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And from that moment on, every single person walked right by me and acted like I was a ghost. They were not allowed to speak to me. And this is my blood family. This is all my friends. These are like every single person I had known in my world. And when that happens, you go into survival mode from an energetic standpoint, from a physical standpoint, from a financial standpoint, because everything is locked into this community that I was raised in. A lot of times, even your financial, like they would all work, they would all help each other with their jobs and stuff. So it was like your whole ecosystem was connected to the religion I grew up in. And so when I left, I had to just figure it out, and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how the world worked. I learned about how the world worked through books growing up. I wasn't allowed to watch TV. I wasn't allowed to hang out with anyone who wasn't a Jehovah's Witness. I didn't know how it worked. I was happy I was able to go to public school at least. A lot of my friends that were in the religion were homeschooled, but at least I was able to go to public school and like kind of get some exposure, even though I wasn't allowed to hang out with any of the kids outside of class, and I wasn't really supposed to like make friends with them. I was just supposed to go to school. So speaking about feminine energy, for many years, I was very deeply leading with my masculine energy. I was very much like, this is what needs to get done. And, I had an ex-boyfriend say, like, I want to get off of the Brittnee rocket ship. Because in my life, I was like, I need to go. It was almost like I was like, I need to go as far away from this pain, this trauma, this black hole that was my whole community. And I recognize this now, that a lot of that was, they say our biggest heartaches are the biggest gifts that we can give the world. So I went blazing through the world to over 70 countries, building community, specifically for people who worked remotely, digital nomads. I was helping launch a lot of these communities around the world and consulting people on launching their co-working spaces and then launching the community for them, and then, getting everyone onboarded. But even when I was doing all of that, I didn't feel good in my body. I was waking up in the morning and because when I was working in law, I had to do billable hours down to 15 minutes. So I can't show you my phone right now because I'm filming on it, but a lot of my friends laugh when they see the cover of my phone because you can't see the time on it. It's an air book. And this is because I used to, whenever I'd see the clock when I was working in law, I would be like, oh no, I need to do some more billable hours, because we had like what is it called? We had a quota that we had to meet. And so everything was like constricted down to how productive you needed to be throughout the day, or you had to stay at work longer and be more productive, or you can take it home and be more. It's like, it was just like, there wasn't enough time in the day for how many things I needed to do. And also talk about self-care. There was like barely any time for self-care. So nowadays when I have it on my phone, like when I see a time on the phone, I can't help it. I switch into this mode of like masculine energy of like, what time is it? I need to get things done. Am I being productive? And so I changed it on my phone to Arabic because they won't let you take it off. So I just changed it to something I don't know what time it is. And the thing I want to say mainly in this podcast is that the biggest lie that is being fed about feminine energy is that it is something that needs to be taught, in the sense that like, I have it and you don't have it. And I don't agree with that at all. I believe, or it's something that is like unattainable. Like, that woman is just in her feminine and I'm not. And so, I guess I'll just always be like this. And it's like, I used to wake up and spend all day long overthinking and trying to control every single moment of my life because I felt unsafe, and also because I needed to be productive because I was leading in my masculine energy. And I just thought if I worried about things enough and planned things out enough, I would be able to create a life that I wanted and that felt safe for me. And all this led to was me being more stressed out, and then causing more stress for everyone around me because I have very powerful energy. And so I was like spreading this stress energy around to everyone around me, especially my partner. And it wasn't making myself happy. It wasn't making them happy. It wasn't making anyone happy in this situation. And I learned, basically, it's like, it's not something that someone else has and you don't. It's something that all you need to do is allow it to be activated in you. If you are a woman who is, wanting to be leading in her feminine energy, there's very specific things that you can do in your life that will activate more feminine energy in your life. So it's not something that I have and you don't have. It's something that you have inside of yourself and you just haven't allowed yourself to activate it. And so that's where the teaching comes in. So it's not like someone needs to go and teach you how to be a feminine woman. It's just like, there's specific things that we used to do back in tribal times that were just natural parts of everyday life of all of us women that are just not in our culture anymore, because we are in a culture that is led and set up for masculine energy. And like, if we're going to go even a step further, is that feminine energy traditionally in the world up until very recently has been squashed down and smashed and like made to be felt as if it wasn't as important or wasn't as valuable, or even just frivolous, like, oh, that's so dumb, like she has her emotions, or like women back in the day used to like get lobotomies because they were emotional. Or they used to be put in insane asylums because they were feeling their feelings. It's like, what? And there's a couple of things I want to say to that, is that like, something I shared in a podcast recently that I took down because my lawyer told me to take it down. I'm not going to go into that, but was that emotions. I know you're thinking, like, what is she talking about? I made a podcast about how I was taking my ex-partner off of my visa, and I had it up for like 24 hours. And then my lawyer was like, I don't think it's good for you to have this up. You don't need to let the whole world know about your situation, So I took it down. But in that podcast, I want to share what I shared in there was basically, for most of my life, one, I was leading in my masculine energy, and two, I thought that my emotions were a bad thing, because when I basically wasn't sharing my emotions when they were alive in me and when they were soft. So like when they were first in me and they were coming through me, like, oh, I'm curious about this emotion. What does this mean? Or I want to share this with you. I don't have a conclusion, but this is just what I'm feeling. I would let them build up to the point where they were exploding out of me and I wanted to burn everything down around me. And this is what we call dragon energy in a negative way. But dragon energy can also be very powerful as a way to protect you and as a way to create a safe space. This is just your inner masculine energy coming out and creating boundaries. But if it is not allowed, so basically emotions are, for me, one of the most powerful things in my life if I know how to channel them. So like I was saying, for most of my life, I would shut down my emotional reality. But like when you talk about manifesting, which I teach a lot of people how to do, you can sit down and make out a to-do list or make out a manifesting list. Like, I want more money. I want this beautiful villa. You know, like I didn't manifest the villa that I live in because I was like, you know, in my logical mind, like, I would like to live in this villa, da da da. I manifested this villa because I have very strong emotions and I connected those to the life that I would like to live. So I created a vision of how I would like to live in my life and what it would look like and how it would feel. I made that into an audio recording of a meditation, and I listened to that in the morning and at night. And the thing that made it manifest was the feelings behind it. So when you can funnel your feelings, and us women, we naturally have more access to our feelings because we make life through us. So we have portal to this spirit world. And in general, I think there's also a couple other reasons why women have a lot more feelings than men. And traditionally, this is not always, but traditionally, is because as women, we are allowed to feel our feelings growing up. So where men a lot of times have just as many feelings, but they were smashed down in their own way and they were told to, like, you know, man up or don't be a pussy, when it's just like, as a human, we all have feelings, you know? So anyways, when you connect this emotional, like, I just think of it as like warm golden energy. And I like, it's like, you know, like you just like shoot it out at things like, okay, I want that thing. I would like to have, I am grateful that I'm receiving this beautiful villa behind me that I'm living in. And then I just like feel in my body like, oh, this feels so good. Yeah, I love living here. And I like visualize it. And then I go on Pinterest and I find the pictures of what it looks like. I print them off. I put them by my bed, you know, like now that I already have this villa and many other things that have manifested in my life in the last 6 months, I have more things that I'm excited to manifest. And so I made a vision board of that. And I made a meditation audio recording of that. And I put a lot of feelings into it. And the first thing in the morning when I wake up, if I'm either in bed or I'm walking afro, I listen to it. And the last thing I do before I go to bed is I listen to it when I'm like falling asleep and you're in gamma brain waves. I could talk like out for hours about manifesting. I love manifesting because we literally choose our reality. The words that come out of your mouth every single day that you are speaking to your friends, that you're speaking to your family, that you're speaking to yourself is what is creating your reality. And we have this culture as a society to connect through complaining, which is actually creating more things in our reality to complain about. Anyways, that's my little tangent. So if you want to create things in your reality that are positive, I invite you to start speaking about what you're grateful for. So I'm grateful for my villa. I'm grateful for all of my beautiful, supportive friends. I'm grateful for Afro, my dog. I'm grateful for all the beautiful impact I'm making in the world. I'm grateful for all the money pouring in. Oh, I'm so grateful for this beautiful life. I'm so grateful that I have this opportunity to live right now in one of the most epic timelines that we can ever choose as souls. Because life is changing so quickly in our short time span of life. Like from a technological standpoint, from a mass consciousness standpoint, from a vibrational standpoint in the world, from the fact that aliens are amongst us, you know, showing up. There's so much I could say about this, but like in my life, I have experienced probably what other people would experience in like 10 lifetimes already. I call them past lives. And I'm so grateful that I get to experience all of these. And I'm so grateful that I understand how the game of life works, so that if I don't like this experience, I can switch. I can switch to another channel. I can build a new life. And I can just keep rising up. Okay, so if you would like to activate your feminine energy more, I want to give you some tips. So I'm looking at my notes here. I wrote flow and trust life more, laugh and cuddle and receive. Okay, so what does that mean? um, for most of my life, I didn't realize that I had this very deep underlying belief. So your core beliefs in your psyche are what create your reality. And sometimes if there's a negative belief, a lot of times if there's a negative belief, if there is a negative belief, it will still create something in your reality that is not happy, it's not positive, because it wants to be healed. So it wants to heal, it wants you to choose a better belief system. So for me, I had this belief, and it was valid that I had this belief because I grew up in an unsafe place, but I basically had a belief, a deep, deep-seated core belief that the world was unsafe. And this, again, was a valid belief depending on, or like considering how I was raised. I was literally raised in a religion that was teaching us to believe that the world was going to end at any moment. Armageddon was going to be here. And I'm talking like in a physical way. They were like, don't plan for savings. Don't invest in stuff because in any moment the world's going to end and like God's going to come and do his judgment, but our people will be saved. So like literal survival mode from an atomic level in my cells, I believed the world was going to end at every moment growing up. So how do you heal that? How do you drop into your masculine or feminine? Ugh. How do you drop into your feminine? And I'm not saying being in your masculine is being in survival mode or being like in an unsafe mode, but being in your masculine is more about paying attention to the 3D reality and making sure that you're safe. And it's kind of like, like the men who are like around the tribe, kind of guarding the tribe while we sleep at night. That's what I think about in the masculine. And each of us have masculine and feminine energy in us. So we need to also have, as a woman, inner masculine energy that is protecting us. But when you're leading in your feminine energy, you are trusting that the world is safe. And you are trusting that everything is working out for you. And you are trusting that it's like everything that comes into your life is a positive thing, even if on the surface it looks like a negative thing. So I'll give you an example. So something happened yesterday where there was the talk about suicide amongst my friend group. And some of this energy came at me. I'm not going to go into the situation, but it came at me in there was a negative energy coming at me about something related to a friend and suicide and da-da-da. And at first, I was upset that they didn't understand that I was concerned for them and that this is like the energy of why I was coming at them with, I was coming at the situation with this very strong energy because I had a friend who killed himself. I don't take this lightly. And then at the same time, I was like, why is this happening? Why is this coming up right now? And so I really sat with it and I looked at it. So this is what I mean by trusting life. That on the surface, this could seem like a negative thing, like, there's some tension in my friend group, there's a rupture or something needs to be healed and da-da-da. And so I'm addressing this. But then when I looked at it deeper and I asked myself, okay, life is always happening for me. Like, why is this happening for me? Or how is this happening for me? And I sat with it and I was like, oh my God, I miss Kane so much today. Wow, wow, wow. And like, also like, why don't people show how much they love each other more? Like we run around being so afraid of showing how much we care because we're worried about having an open heart, because we're worried about getting hurt. So we're all running around trying to protect our hearts, but then someone is just gone and you can't tell them how much you care anymore. You can't tell them how much you love them anymore. They're just gone. And I was just like, whoa. Do you not realize how quickly it can change, this game of life? Suddenly a main character can just get ripped out of your life. And that hole of them being there doesn't go away, especially if it's suicide.
because we all have soul contracts of how we are meant to be in each other's lives. And this is why suicide hurts so much more. This is why a lot of us get really angry when someone kills themselves, because on a soul level, we know that we were meant to live longer with them. We know that we were meant to have more things in this physical reality longer. And on a spiritual level, they can still play out that timeline with us, but they'll be in spirit, you know? Like, I feel Cain all the time. And sometimes I talk to him, and like I get downloads from him. Like, he's there. He's still with me in this timeline, but it's on a spiritual level, and that still pisses me off because he's not here with me right now. Anyway, so me being in my feminine was like, I had a lot of things planned yesterday that I was meant to do in the world. And also, what is the point of life if we are not allowing ourselves to feel our emotions? If we are not allowing ourselves to be soft and vulnerable and to flow with what we need to be doing each day. So if I were leading in my masculine energy yesterday, I would have been like, okay, I'm going to compartmentalize these feelings, put them in a box in my psyche, and like open them maybe never, you know, and get the things done that I had planned on my to-do list. Being in my feminine energy was messaging the people that I needed to, like, hey, I can't hang out today. I'm going into cave mode, going into high priestess, going into my wild woman cave mode. I need to feel my feelings. And just sharing with my community what's happening, letting everyone know what's going on, and then just going in and allowing myself to really sit with it and creating that space for my feelings to go through me and for me to be soft in them. And for me to do that, like the result of me doing that is I came out of that vortex, or I'm coming out of it now still, I'm still in it, is to feel a lot more soft, to feel a lot more like, the word that's coming to me is vulnerable, but it's usually vulnerable, again, in a masculine run world is a negative thing, because being vulnerable is being weak, and it's being, you know, you're open for attack or you're open for something bad happening. But being vulnerable in a feminine way is like, it's really yummy. It's just like, yeah, it's just open. It's open and receptive to life, and it's open and receptive to beautiful love coming into your life in whatever form that is and whatever connection that means for you. And to trust that life is always happening for you. Because when a woman is, so another way that you can be more and to activate your feminine energy is to be around women in real sisterhood. So a lot of women have never experienced this. They've only experienced women being competitive. And, you know, it's really interesting. Like, this is something I've also been grieving or facing in the last 24 hours is, I had two sisters growing up. So I had one who's 2 years older. Her name's Chelsea. And her and I we're like very, very close. We're almost like best friends. So in school, everyone always thought we were like friends because we don't look like each other. She's like taller than me and blonde. And I'm already very tall. But she's taller than me and blonde, straight hair. And especially in school, I had like very curly, like reddish brown hair. And then so her and I had a very positive example of sisterhood, is what I would say, from like an archetype perspective. And then my younger sister, she's 2 years younger than me. And we had what I would consider a very negative example of sisterhood. And I recognized in the last 24 hours, this is something I really wasn't allowing myself to look at, because I was like, oh yeah, I had great sisters and da-da. And I loved them. But that doesn't mean that I had a great experience with them in certain ways. And this is where my friends say, like, Brittnee, you're always in your higher self. You always look for the best in everyone, but you have to honor the human experience that your body is experiencing. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I need to honor this. Otherwise, it's going to keep coming back up in this loop because it wants to be healed. So with my younger sister, I didn't realize this until I look back on it, but she was always competing with me for my dad's attention. So she would follow me around in school, like this is going into high school, and she would go home and like report back to my dad if I spoke to a boy. Because again, I was raised in a religious cult, so you're not supposed to speak to anyone else, really, not really be friends. And like, oh my gosh, if you talk to a boy, like that is like the worst thing you could do as a woman. And she was just like, I always felt this like energy from her that she was out to get me and to like kind of make me look bad in my dad's eyes. And when I was experiencing this growing up, I was in survival mode, so I didn't really understand. I wasn't like this to her. Like, I just was like, can you just leave me alone? I just wanted all of them to leave me alone and leave me in peace. That's how I felt. Like, can everyone just leave me alone? So my mom and my older sister they were kind of like the safe people in my world, in my immediate family, and my dad and my younger sister were like the very unsafe people. So I didn't realize that this created a belief in me and my psyche, deep in my psyche, that women can be some of the most supportive in your life, or they can be some of the least supportive people in your life. I very much wanted to just focus on the positive side of this and being like, they're great, I love women, da da da. But in the last year especially, I have experienced some of the biggest shadows of women who considered themselves my sisters. And this was around them wanting to have the attention of the man in my life. And even in the last 24 hours, I was still processing this, because a part of me is just like, I just want us all to be sisters. I just want to forgive them and this and that. But I have to really honor that not everyone is there for you as a sister. And I was asking myself, why is this? Why are they in America? We would say like shooting themselves in the foot. Like, why are they? Like, for me, like, women is where it's at, like, men come and go in your life. And of course there's beautiful men in my life that are staying forever. But like, as a woman, in order for me to be deeply in my feminine energy, I need to have my tribe of women around that have my back, that are like showing up for me. They are my ride or die. They are there for me when I'm on the floor crying and I am like nonverbal. Like, these are my women. And there is no competition between us and other men. I even have one of my best friends here on the island. We happen to be attracted to the same men. Like, it's just funny because we have the same types. We're almost the same astrology. We do very similar things in the world around sexuality and empowering women. And we have this code, this like respect code with each other, where if one of us knows that we've like connected with a man, and the other one will just check in and be like, hey, what's going on with you and this guy? What's going on with you and Eric? Like, are you guys connecting still? Or like, can I play with him? Or do you claim him? Like, whoever interacts with him first gets the dibs to claim them. And it's been such a healing thing for both of us to be like, the sisterhood is what comes first. It does not matter about these men that are coming in and out of our lives romantically. It matters about our deep sisterhood. And if you have never experienced real sisterhood, it's going to be very hard for you to feel deeply in your feminine energy. Because as women back in tribal times, we would hang out specifically with our women every single day. This is who you were raising your kids with, cooking, like even like some women, they would go hunting, but it was like, we were still as a crew, it was the women together, and the men would come and go, like they would be out hunting, they would be out fighting, whatever. But it was like, this is in our genes, this is in our DNA for women to be connecting together. And when women are connecting together, we just naturally co-regulate each other. We just naturally help each other align our nervous system and feel dropped into our bodies. And it can sound really funny when you hear the conversations. It can just sound like, this is how I'm feeling, or I was on my period and I was feeling gross, or, I just got my hair done, or like, look at my nails. It doesn't even matter what we say. If you're listening to it, it can sound like really basic, but it's the energy of us being amongst women. This is what activates the feminine energy. And if you are a woman who is never experienced this, I am hosting a women's retreat on February 15th. So if you're coming to the island, I would love for you to be part of it. It's called Goddess on Fire Retreat. And it's specifically about helping you activate your feminine energy, especially your sexual power. But one thing I want to say to you is that there is responsibility that each of us have to be a woman that is safe for everyone else. So if you're a woman who is in scarcity mindset and you don't believe that you actually are in a competitive mindset with other women, you are only going to keep creating this reality where you need to compete with other women. if you choose to be in a belief system that sisterhood is what comes first before men, before anything else, and that there exists women in the world that have your same value system, that have your back, that want to show up for you, that love you at your heights and at your depths, then this is what you will bring into your life. You will attract this into your life. So it's about creating a belief system that they exist, and also becoming that woman yourself. Because if you're running around saying you don't trust women, and you're not, and you're in a competitive mindset with women, and you're showing up in a world in a way where you're not honoring women, then you're only going to keep attracting that into your life. You know, I was connecting with a man recently. I had him on my podcast, Joel, and Joel's in a partnership, right? So like he and his partner is open and is like supportive of us connecting. But you don't know what I said. I said, I just want to be your friend. Like I am over this whole thing about, you know, I know that openness has a potentiality to work. I have friends where it works. But where I'm at in my life right now is I would rather just be his friend and show up for her as a sister than get into the mix of whatever is open relating and whatever. Like for me, it's more important to, like, I would sacrifice, quote unquote, a romantic connection with him if for me it means that I can have a long-term friendship with both of them. And that's just where I'm at, because for me, sisterhood comes first. And like, I just want to protect everyone and have their love for each other be something that is honored and protected. And I just feel like if all of us women did this, then there would be no more competition, because men follow our lead. I don't think you'd realize this, that men are very receptive to how women are showing up. And in the world, a lot of times we think it's flipped, but it's really like us women are leading the way of how relationships go. We are the ones who have the power when we are rooted in our own value system, when we are deeply in our feminine energy. Because a woman, when she's deeply in her feminine energy, she is just this like portal to spirit and to everything that makes life worth living, everything that is nourishing and yummy and soft. And this is what activates masculine energy in men. This is what makes their life worth living. So there's so much more I could say, but I'm going to go to the gym now because I have a beautiful friend who is a beautiful man in my life, who is a friend of mine, and he's going to train me on kettlebells. And I really appreciate him. Thank you, Michael, for being in my life. But I guess I just want to reiterate at the end, like, it is such a fucking lie that, like, we just are born like this, especially in today's world. Is one of the hardest things as a woman to be deeply rooted in her feminine energy. Because every single day, the world is trying to tell you that it's unsafe and that you need to be more productive and that you can't trust anyone. And it's like, as a woman, it is like a rebellious act to be in your feminine energy today. And it's like a rebellious act to trust the universe that everything's going to work out and that you can trust women and that the world is safe and it's okay to feel your feelings. And it's okay to honor your body and honor everything that's happening in your body and create space for it. And I'm telling you that if you do that, the whole world will move for you, because people are like, who the fuck is that lady? She's really honoring herself. She's fucking glowing. She's feeling her feelings, and by her feeling her feelings, it's activating me to feel my feelings. And this is what I want. This is what makes life meaningful. So the question is like, do you want to be an activation for the world? And do you want to feel good in your body? And you know, or do you want to just like keep being stressed out and overthinking and not enjoying life? Like, I wake up every day and I'm like, oh, I'm so fucking grateful to be alive. Even if I'm crying all day, even if I don't know what the fuck is going on in my life, I'm just like, I'm just so grateful to be here. Like, life is magical and I know it's all working out.